Hey, remember that time I made a YouTube channel and then only posted like 3 videos? This is, I'm pretty sure a lot of you will recognize this. This is one of those holiday type fat packs, those little end cap dealios that they sell at Walmart. But this is one that I actually wanted to go over on the channel because it's got a lot of value for what I paid for this. And I want to compare it to some stuff. And if you're thinking about getting one of these kind of pre-packaged Chinese-made knife sets for somebody in your family, especially if somebody's a hunter or an outdoorsman, this may be actually the best one that you can find at the old Wally World. This is branded as a Mossy Oak knife set, though it's probably made in the same factory that a lot of the other Chinese brands are made in, like the new Schrade knives, you know, that Taylor Brands makes. A lot of them share the same factory. In fact, they look like this one bears a striking resemblance to one of the Schrade lockbacks that you can still buy today. Of course, no longer made in America. But we'll take a look at the front of here. Full tang design. That probably only applies to this bad boy over here. I don't know how you make a full tang folding knife. Lifetime warranty on the knives, but 5-year warranty on the sheath. And this is a real leather sheath. It's probably the cheapest leather that you can possibly buy, but it's real leather and it's decently thick. It's just about over 1/8 inch. It's a little more literature on here. 2-in-1 folding knife. Nice way of saying it. It's a trapper model. Stag finish handle. Of course, picked this up again for $24. So you are not going to get real stag. You're going to get this kind of jigged Delrin plastic on there. But Delrin's a really durable, really heat-resistant material. So that's been used in knife handles for a long time by a lot of different companies. On the back here, it shows a picture of the set you get with much nicer looking stag handles. You can see these are a little yellow and the pattern's a little irregular. And then just a bunch of warning you're buying sharp things, which I would hope people know if they're buying knives. And then down here, officially licensed product, distributed by Hangzhou Great Star Industrial Company in China, made in China. Alright, let's crack her open. The first one I actually want to look at is this lockback in here. So this lockback is a direct form and function copy of a Schrade knife. I collect vintage Schrade knives, vintage old timers specifically. Over here I have one of the original old timers. This is the 60 or the 60T. Schrade Plus is just before they went to China, but if you see this, it's got the same size bolster. It's got the same little flat spot here. Nail nicks in the same place, dimensions are exact, but one of the reasons I like this model is it's the single bolster model. It's a lot lighter than the double bolster model. I got a original Uncle Henry over here as well, the rosewood handle one, and this knife is several ounces heavier just for having that extra bolster, and you can't throw a lanyard on this one. So right off the bat, that was one of the first things that attracted to me, and boy, this is incredibly light. One thing that this knife has in common with a lot of the new Schrade lockbacks is that it has way thinner brass on it. You can see how thick the brass is on here, and it's just way smaller on this little guy. So it reduces weight and actually makes it maybe a little bit more ergonomic. But holding the two of these in hand, this one is significantly lighter. See the liners as well. This one's got steel liners, where the original Schrade has got the brass liners. And then they're actually both Delrin. This is a saw cut Delrin, which is quite old. You can see it's actually shrunk around the pins in there. And then this has just got, like I said, that faux jigging. It's not even real jigging. It's in the mold, and then they put like a paint over it and wipe it off, do kind of like a oil wash on there. But it's not bad. It comes decently sharp. It's not a bad edge. There's no big flat spots looking up at you. And of course, anytime I handle a knife, it'll shave. Anytime I handle a knife out of the package, I would hope it would be sharp. Now this doesn't have a sheath with it. That was one of the things that I was wondering when I first got these. Is this going to come with a belt sheath? And that would probably be just a little bit too much for under $30. But it's not a bad little guy over here. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. I'm going to take a look at what probably my least favorite out of them, but still not a terrible knife. I'll take these little plastic condoms off of there. These are not so you don't poke yourself getting the knives out of here, because these almost always fall off the second I take the knife out. This is so that you can't steal the knife by bending the package and poking the knife out and then pulling it out, and so that they don't poke through the package in transport. It's mostly loss prevention. But this is a two-bladed trapper, real simple, real classic model. It's kind of almost a slimline trapper. I got one of the Chinese Schrades over here, one of the Taylor brand Schrades, and you can see they're very similar in dimensions. Schrade makes several different sizes of their trapper model. They make one that's almost identical to this, and you can see the nail nicks are very similar. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if these were made in the same factory. One interesting thing though is that the back spring on this is pretty light. The back spring on this guy is a little bit more solid. You can hear when it closes. This guy's just a little light. It's also decently sharp. One thing that I noticed when I could see it up on the shelf is the really super, almost fake yellow kind of gold color that these had. But once I handled them for a minute, it started to kind of dissipate. These are all covered in some kind of factory schmoo that I think is meant to keep them from oxidizing in the package and turning brown. So as you handle them, or if you wash them or steel wool them, that should turn into a normal brass coloration, but you can see the difference in color. It's a lot yellower right now. I think that's just a reaction with whatever coating they put on these to keep them from oxidizing. Last guy I want to take a look at is this fixed blade over here, and probably my second favorite out of everything. It's not bad. It's actually not a bad little fixed blade. Again, this is probably, you know, it's a Chinese steel, and this is no Riati knife. You know, you're not buying a finely made knife in China. This is to a price point, but these are all so far very serviceable knives. This is probably a 5CR or 6CR stainless steel. It'll take a magnet, so there's not so much chrome in there that it's anti-magnetic. It's actually sticks pretty well. A lot of the old timers used to use these to test out whether or not a knife was stainless or not. And it's actually not really a good test on anything past the 50s and 60s. They used to throw so much chromium into stainless steel for knives that you couldn't stick a magnet to them, but these days you can get away with a lot more carbon in a stainless knife by adding other rare earth elements into there. So that test doesn't quite work anymore, because this is definitely not a carbon steel. It's got kind of a cool shape to it. I like the shape a lot. Very usable shape. Kind of a drop point, kind of a cross between a drop point and a Bowie. The construction of this I can't see in there, but if I had to guess, it's probably a rat tail tang with a screw at the end. This is screwed down tight, and then the whole knife is finished over. You can tell though on these that the Delrin is actually carved. The Delrin is carved to be flush with the brass, and that's a nice little thing because there's very little discrepancy between these two lines here. The really interesting thing though about this knife set is not the knives themselves, but the fact that it comes with a real leather sheath. And I actually quite like this sheath. It's not as good as a lot of the stuff that you're going to get out of more expensive brands, but for a Chinese knife, for a knife at this price point, this is a totally serviceable sheath. It's got two different snaps on it, if I don't cut them and then remove one. It's a little tight when you first get in there, and that's better than it being too loose. It's not going to flop around. And the buttons on these snaps are actually proper tight. They may not stay that way, but if you listen, that's quite a snap, and it takes a bit to pop them open. That's a pretty good snap. This thing is very securely held in the sheath, full grain. You don't have a tiny little dingle hopper hanging on the end of there. It's actually a decently thick piece of leather. Another Mossy Oak knife that I have is this guy right over here. Now this did not come with this sheath. I had to get this sheath aftermarket, but I actually do not prefer this style of design. Not only does it have only one rivet, or only one clasp, but when you look at the back of these, this is possibly my least favorite design as far as belt sheaths go. This little piece right here, even though this is pretty thick, almost belt thick leather, these always rip. This little stress point right here is going to wear and fatigue, and in fact a lot of these designs you see a little circle cut out on top of there, so that it adds a little bit of wear resistance. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Beautiful. Like I was saying though, these two knife sheaths, I like this knife. I got this with another little Mossy Oak set a few years back around Christmas time. It was another one of the little end cap sets that they have, but it came with these horrible Chinese nylon sheaths. Like, these are some of the worst sheaths that money can buy. They've got the little plastic insert with this super loosey-goosey, floppy, open weave nylon. It's you know, sometimes they call it a Cordura fabric if they've paid the money to license that name, but these are all just, you know, just dog hair thin. I mean, if you scratched it hard enough, you'd get right through it. They're just absolute garbage. I was wondering when I first got this if the sheath would fit this knife. So let's take a little look-see. It's a little tight. Heyo! That's not too bad. That's pretty cool. I like the fact that this fits in this sheath. Let's see if we can do a little reverso action and stick this on the little stag. Yeah, I got this for like $10 online. Probably paid too much for it. Ooh, that's really tight. Yeah. I think this blade's a little bit thicker. I'm not sure that clasp. Oh, no, we got it. I'm running out of real estate towards the bottom of there. See, I'm not cutting my grommets, am I? No, it doesn't look like it. Well, that's cool. Nice to know that they're interchangeable. And like I said, for $24, I mean, this is quite a set. There we go. Again, this sheath, one thing I don't like about the sheath design is that there's no middle layer between these two pieces of leather. So in addition to possibly cutting your seams if your knife goes in at kind of an oblique angle, you also run the risk of running the edge of your knife against one of these brass rivets. And if they are real brass, they may be brass. Oh, they're brass coated steel. They're not real brass. So yeah, so you could really just take the edge right off your knife if you pull it out, anything but just straight up. This knife has a, doesn't look like leather, it's probably foam. Yeah, that's probably foam. Gonna be reviewing some more expensive knives later in the year, but I see a lot of people on YouTube wanting to know about cheap knives, wanting to know about, you know, knives that they can beat the crap out of. And I think when you start to wonder about the use for a knife like this, a knife that you can beat the tar out of is probably the best for this. You know, like a true beater knife, something that you can throw in your tackle box, something that you can take fishing and not worry about dropping in the water, or something that you can get for that guy who you start talking about knives around and he goes, "Knives, I love knives," and takes something out of his pocket and he goes, "Yeah, look at this guy, it's a total workhorse," and it's like missing a screw and the blade is sideways and the pivot's completely open and, you know, it's about as sharp as a spoon. Get these knives for that guy, because you're not going to cry when he comes back and the tip's broken off because he thinks it is a crowbar. Another use for these knives, again, like I said, is having kind of a beater knife, something that can replace something nicer in your collection. And would you believe that my mother actually bought me this box one Christmas? This is an elk hide box. Isn't this just the coolest thing? It's got a little piece of antler there. I use this for my real stag knives. I've only got a few of them, but here they be. And this will give you a good example of the difference between real stag and this little pattern that they've got on there. Now, I do prefer this style of faux stag. I'm not a big fan of the kind of wormwood jigging with the long stretches. This one's not too bad. This is another little Walmart cheapo, little Ozark Trail. $5 knife. Let me know if you want me to do a review of this guy. This knife is $5 and I love it. I keep it in my Jeep. But I much prefer this. Now, I don't like the fact that it, for some reason, is bright yellow. Real stag is almost never going to be that yellow. But these knives are knives that I don't know if I would actually take hunting with me. This is a little flashy. This is the kind of thing that I show my friends when they come over, or you know, looks good on the Instagrams. This knife's not terribly expensive. This is a Joker brand knife. A little lockback. I actually picked both of these guys up at a flea market for almost nothing. It retails for about $65–70 online. I got one without a sheath for 15 bucks. And this is an extremely rare fox bowie that I got for $35, if you can believe it. Made in Italy, taper tang. I'm not sure what the steel type is, probably a 440 or something. This is excellent. I cannot believe I got my hands on this. But again, this is a knife that I would feel real sore if I lost it or broke it, or, you know, something happened to it, or if it got confiscated. So if you're somebody that really likes the stag look, but you want a knife that you can, you know, do non-knife things with, like, you know, pry anything in the world with, this is not a bad little choice for you here. See, they got almost the same tang thickness. This is going to be a stronger knife because I can see the tang. I have no idea what's in here under the Delrin, but given the weight, it really can't be too much meat in there. So as for my final conclusion on these knives, oh man, I almost let you guys get away too early. I'm sitting here and I'm editing the video, and something really interesting happens, and I have to change my opinion on this knife right here. Yet to be seen if this is made by Taylor Brands or in the same factory, but got a little piece of information that points me to not being made by that company. I was under the impression that these were solid steel bolsters, and I thought it was interesting that I couldn't see even just the barest whiff of a pin in there. And I noticed a little panel gap in here, and I kind of squished it, and I heard a crack, and I'm thinking, that's strange. So I got my nail in there, and would you look at this tomfoolery? Look at that. It's a cap. This is the pin, ground flush. It's got some kind of epoxy in there, or glue, and they just glue this cap on when they finish it. And that is not gonna last. I don't care what kind of glue you throw in there. That is not gonna last. Not without a screw. Not with any kind of hard work. So, unfortunately, while these other knives, you know, this I can't imagine. Let's see. Let's take a little thumbnail there. I can't imagine. Yeah, you can see the pin. You can see an exposed pin in there. That's a through pin. This is gonna be, you know, it's gonna stay together. These, I don't know. I don't know what kind of shenanigans they're gonna be using on the inside of here. I mean, this feels real cold to the touch and real heavy, so I'm imagining this is solid. But I don't know how much I can recommend this knife set now. I appreciate you if you stayed till the end, but wow, that's surprising. I was not expecting that. So I'm gonna re-glue this with some better glue, and I'm gonna return it. And the person who gets it, hopefully it will last a little bit longer than it did in my hand. But yeah, I don't know if I can. If you think it's worth it, $24 for this and the belt sheath knife, go ahead. But this guy right here, I mean, this is just crap. This is a dirty little secret that I'm glad I found out before I put this on my belt. So, thanks for tuning in, and got another review to you in a couple of days. Take care for real. See you around.